Sorry about that. I forgot to pick the correct graphics card to use for the stream software. So we would have seen a nice black screen for the whole class, and I would not have probably noticed until about half hour into it. But yeah, should be good now. So hopefully we are all back in here. Hype intensifies. Alrighty. Let's do this. All up in voice chat. Got our everybody ping. My PC build though. I should put that up in on the channel so you can all giggle at how terrible it is. We are hashing MD5 today. We're actually breaking MD5 today. Where is my mouse? There it is. John the Ripper. So let me, actually that's a good point. I should get our SSH session up and running. Since this will take a minute. I noticed Google Cloud's been running a lot slower lately, so I'm gonna guess that they're getting hit as well. So, I'm going to guess that some things are going to change a little bit with regards to expectations. Fairly certain that TAs are going to not be as big of a part of class anymore, unfortunately, unless there is some kind of special agreement reached, it sounds like. So, grading might change slightly. Yes, Triash, do you have a question? There's a, oh, okay, I thought there's a longer timeout for that. What's up? Can I help you with? Oh, good. Okay. Do we record those? So, still on the real Eric F. Uh-oh. I would wait for some more clarification on. So my current plan for the presentations, at least, is that every group is going to be responsible for whatever technology they use. Um, if you want to live stream it, kind of like I'm doing here through Twitch, that's up to you. If you want to record it, put it on YouTube or whatever hosting service you want, that's fine too. We would just watch it together, basically. So, my current plan for the presentations is that we would all jump into either a Google Meeting or a Hangout or Professor reacts to student streams on Twitch or something basically. The class periods where you'll be presenting, we will all be concurrently watching your presentations because I think at least for me, the interesting thing about your presentations is that you can all ask questions to each other. And last year, if you were in the class with me, we actually had some pretty decent interaction with everybody. So, like, did you think about doing this? What was the technology you used? How could I take this and use it at home? Kind of a similar thing. So I would like it to still be interactive. But the long story short is it's up to you. So if you are going to live stream it, I'll probably be making a recording somehow and I would put that up on Moodle. But I'd say it's whatever each group wants to do. Probably one of the near upcoming in-class assignments, I will ask you all what your groups each plan to do for this. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting bit of, well, presentations. I'm already anticipating technical glitches. We actually just interviewed one of the candidates for a faculty position today, and it was all through Google Hangouts. So that was interesting. Yes, question from our Welsh corgi. Uh-oh. Shriyash, what did you do? The last 2 days of class, so it's going to be, I think it's the 16th and the 18th or something like that. Yeah, I haven't assigned dates yet, so I think it's, well, I assigned dates, I just haven't assigned presentations yet. So the 14th and the 16th are the dates. Yeah, so it's the last two classes right before the finals week. Current plan is finals going to be online. It shouldn't be any problem, I would guess. So, Hashcat. Hey, easy now. So wait a minute, you can say that, but Shriyash got slapped by the auto mod for saying whatever he wanted to. Oh, that's nice. Way to go. Alrighty. Um, yeah. Okay, another question. Today's professor reacts to Twitch stream. What's going on? Well, if you copy and paste it from the slides, it's no wonder you got auto-modded. I tend to curse a lot. Yeah, so that is a good question. First of all, I didn't realize that I was a clone, so I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, you can do your whole project in GCP. With the current issues with our VPN, and they recently upped the amount of VPN licenses. I'm gonna bet that that still gets hit pretty hard. Um, I've noticed there have been some issues accessing vCenter too. So if you guys are really struggling with the virtual machine server at Oakland, I would almost recommend trying out GCP to see if you can get that working too. Um, so yeah, the point of GCP versus vCenter is that you can do either or both. Um, as long as you're able to demonstrate your project, I don't care where it is, as long as it is functioning. So yeah, that's basically where we're at. Yep, no problem. So there's a couple of other things. I've been getting some random questions. One of them was probably interesting for everybody, so I'll talk about it briefly. If you want to do WordPress on your Windows server, and if you wanted to do that, I'd assume you want to hook it into Active Directory or something like that. You are most likely going to need a PHP and MySQL servers running. You can install that in Windows. I don't remember if you can actually run WordPress with IIS and MS SQL. Might be possible. I haven't looked into it, but you are going to need to figure out how to install PHP and MySQL if you're going that route. There was that Microsoft Web Platform that we looked at. So that would be an option. Oh, Twitch Prime. Okay, I was trying to figure out what the blue crown was. It's like, did I accidentally mod you? No, Twitch Prime. Okay. So, yeah, there's that. I would recommend trying to. Okay, yeah, you can. Yeah, sure. I would definitely recommend trying your technology out for recording your presentation sooner rather than later so that it's not the day before class and your webcam doesn't work or something's broken. So just make sure that everything's working okay on your end. All right. So unless there's anything else, today we're going to be talking about pen testing, and this is a very fun topic because we get to put on our bad guy hats for a little while and try to break things. The ethical warning label that I put on this talk every time, plus all of the other fun things that we've talked about, is that Do not do this to production systems or apply them to anybody, because the things you can do in here can be construed as very, very bad. So be a good white hat hacker, find problems, but don't do anything bad with the data that you uncover. Again, there is nothing wrong with using these tools as long as you are using them in terms of a ethical, you are trying to troubleshoot things in your network. You're trying to fix things. You're not trying to break into other people's systems. But I'm curious, while I kind of mosey over here to the next set of slides, yeah, it's Wireshark all over again. It's exactly what we're doing, except we're not looking at Wireshark. We're going to be looking at some more advanced tools that are out there. Does anybody know what pen testing is? Yes, are any of you pen testers or have done anything in this area? You probably have talked about it, excuse me, in like a cybersecurity class if you've gone that route. But anybody know what this kind of an activity is? Heard of Kali? So yeah, all of these tools are baked into Kali. So Kali Linux is a distribution which pen testers typically use, making sure your pasta is done. More so testing for exploits, absolutely. Testing for vulnerabilities, exactly. You're trying to penetrate your network. You're trying to penetrate your systems. Making sure your pasta is done. You want it al dente, so take it off a little bit sooner than when you think it should be done. But basically, yeah, so you're doing pen testing to try and did Metis wait? Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna have to look at the audit log later to see what the problem is. And it's al dente. Please, come on. Ethical hacking, exactly. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun because you can see how easy it is to break into systems. Every time that I have told you, yeah, I'm sure you didn't say anything. But basically, anytime that I've warned you to change the default password, anytime I've asked you to secure your networks at home because of some exploit that we've talked about, update your devices, it's all because of the things we're going to see here. We're going to look at a few different technologies, but these are all more or less open source, easily downloaded, very easily run. And this is kind of the low-hanging fruit that you want to protect yourself against. Right? Anybody can run a network or a cluster of servers, get a nice cluster of servers, run a botnet, and just throw these exploit tools on them and just scan whatever IP addresses we can find. Can I hack common passwords? Well, if I know that everybody's running their, their baby monitors, their Nests, their various IoT devices with default passwords, well, that's a very, very easy way into your network, right? So, got a couple of videos here, and hopefully this isn't going to blow out your speakers. Let me down the desktop audio of it. First one, so this is hacking in the real world versus what you think hacking is going to be, I believe. Yeah, I love this video. So, here's what we think hacking actually is. A nice multicolored keyboard. So that's got to be what a hacker does, I'm sure. But in reality, this is hacking. It's not as sexy as one thinks it is. But yeah, the thing that I love about this this video is that it's just a bunch of like Tmux windows, Tmux panes that have been split. So looks pretty. Kind of reminds me of Hacker Typer. Anybody ever go to this website? It's lots of fun. I used to have my kids play with this when... Actually, I should do this again because now that everybody's at home, I can make them write hacker code. I'm just typing. Man, I am a good hacker. Wow. Thing with this is that somehow one of my kids hit the correct key combination to open up the like hack NASA or whatever the whatever the hacking win condition is here. I've never gotten it. I don't know what it is, but fun little tool, hackertyper.com. So the alternative here too, absolutely required, by the way.
Trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! 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 Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car!
Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
So good. Homework assignment. If you haven't seen Hackers yet, go out and watch it. I'm pretty sure it's free on YouTube at the moment. So, good movie. Wonderful look at what we thought the internet was going to look like back in the 90s. Any of you see that movie, by the way? It's absolutely delightful. I love how his accent swaps back and forth from British to English too, but at various points in the movie. Okay, so pen testing. What is it? If you look on the internet for penetration testing, safe search on, it's going to be a ton of Black Hat conference talks. So Black Hat is a very popular hacking conference. Basically, it's just iterating how we can be better at penetration testing or pen testing. If this is the kind of thing you enjoy doing, it's a very good consulting gig. I actually had a student last year who got really interested in pen testing, and he went out trying to find a job in this area, and I'm fairly certain he was actually successful. So it's a very good consulting gig, and it is a good way to fix your networks and fix problems. So this talk is also kind of inspired by this How to Fix a Broken Window lecture that was given a while ago. Has anybody ever seen this command? So this is netsend asterisk and then a string. Any of you ever used that before? Every year, less and less people know what this command is. But this was a lovely DOS command. Nope. Okay. So what this command does is calls the net command, pretty much. So the net command is actually one that I think we looked at a little bit when we talked about PowerShell. But basically, this sends a string out to all connected computers. So net send asterisk, send this message to everybody on your network. So the issue with why this is a problem is that I could come up with any kind of payload I want, encapsulate it as a string here, and then just blast it to every single PC on my network. And it could be used for DDoS. So I could put this in a loop. I could put some kind of a nefarious string in there, which might trigger a buffer overflow or something like that. But basically, there was zero security with this command. There was no password required. You didn't have to be an admin to send it. And the fun thing was that this command in particular, this was active when I was an undergrad in the early 2000s, where I could send a message to everybody on our school network. And this would pop up and take over whatever screen they were doing while that was going on. So lots and lots of fun. But basically, don't allow commands which are, insecure on your system. So pen testing would be one way to try to find problems like this. All right. So some of the generalities of this, this topic. So we are testing inside and outside. So pen testing is not just trying to break through a firewall. It is also, I have valid credentials. I am now trying to test out machines inside the network as well. Somebody in the chat said they had a hack box or something like that, right? XP with Hack the Box using Kali. So you can have machines, and people are actually putting them on Raspberry Pis now, where you have a little mobile access point, and I'm just walking through a building trying to see which networks I can hop onto and what I can exploit. So some of these commands are just running automatically. Can I break your Wi-Fi password? Tends to be very, very trivial to do these days, which is quite interesting. So we're testing our network out. This includes topics like port scanning, so what ports are open, looking for known vulnerabilities or exploits. So basically there is lists of exploits. So we've looked at those that exploit database where here's the latest list of exploits that you have to update for, that you have to fix, right? So those are all published and well known. Well, obviously you as sysadmins are patching that, but people that are out there trying to exploit things, whether we are white hat and pen testing, or we are black hat and trying to, use this information for bad, everybody knows about these problems. So trying to secure your system is very, very important. And this can be automated, obviously, so everything can be scripted, everything can be automated to make your life easier. So you can come up with a list of pen tests that you're going to run and just throw it at the system. If you find a problem, you can start to worm your way in and go a little bit deeper, right? So maybe tweak some of these settings. So on and so forth. So first of all, we looked at this last semester and we talked about the speculation control vulnerability, right? So Spectre and Meltdown. Forgot to open PowerShell here, but I'll see this okay. I already installed speculation control. I think we might have even talked about this semester. I can't remember. So import module speculation control. Let's pull that in and then get speculation control settings. Just tabbed it. So again, is my system updated to handle Spectre and Meltdown? Well, I am. Looks like I'm okay. I mean, I've been getting Windows updates and it's configured fine, but this is something that you could deploy remotely. So run a PowerShell script which calls this command, deploy it to every single machine under your control. And if any of these fields come back as an invalid setting, what you're not expecting to see, then you have to go to that machine and update it. And again, with everything linked up in Server Manager or whatever you're using to manage your Linux machines, you can even do this remotely. So deploy this Windows update, deploy whatever you need to bring things back up. So again, getting comfortable with PowerShell, getting comfortable with remote management will make your life easier in the long run. And let me know if this little yellow cursor is a little bit distracting. I just threw a different icon on my mouse. Okay, so the purpose. Obviously, we're testing our security plan. So any good IT infrastructure will have a security plan in place for how we test and keep our machines up to date. All right, so let me go ahead and tap through that a little bit. It's also used for auditing purposes, so you can show either your managers or whatever auditing organizations coming by to make sure that you're following your procedures, that I have a detailed list of security steps that I'm going to test my network on. And here are all of my test reports saying that we are up to date. And if there's a failure, well, here's what we did to fix it, right? So again, it's the CYA notion. It is the making sure that you're in compliance idea. Just make sure that everything's up to date and that it's documented. It always goes back to CYA because even if your testing fails, you can demonstrate what you did to fix it. Okay, so why do we need pen testing? All right, I've got all this information up here, but the thing that we are going to keep coming back to is that security is an arms race, right? So somebody will come up with a hack or an exploit or something will be discovered. Well, you as good security researchers will implement a fix. It'll get pushed out. It gets fixed. Life is good. Well, then somebody's going to find something else or develop something else or develop something else. And it's going to keep going and going and going, right? There's not a endpoint where we can say that security is done or everything's good. When we looked at the Stuxnet virus, right? That was the one that was shutting down the nuclear power plants. Those machines were not on the network, yet they still got infected. So you can't even just say pull the plug and we're safe. No, there's still ways to get into your system. So always make sure that your systems are up to date. Always make sure that you're keeping up on these exploits and addressing them. Other thing, laptops, tablets, cell phones, smartwatches. I don't have mine on today. Smart headphones. So Bluetooth headphones. These are all devices with processors in them that are exploitable. Okay, all of our machines are promiscuous, and what that means, outside of being fun to say on stream to a class of adults, is that these machines are going to go into networks, right? So if I go to Starbucks, assuming our quarantine gets lifted, I plug into their network and I'm on their Wi-Fi, I'm on the Starbucks Wi-Fi. I can access any other machine on that network, right? I'm sure that we've looked at Black Sheep and Fire Sheep in the past, where it's an extension that you can plug into Firefox and just sniff everybody's traffic. Or you can run Wireshark or T-Shark, sniff packets on the network just by being there, right? And this is how viruses get transmitted. This is how worms get transmitted. They just happen to be passed from machine to machine. And if you're on a common network with everybody, well, you're at risk. What's the solution to promiscuous machines? See if anybody's still here and paying attention, or if everybody's already passed out by my deep, nasally voice. How do we fix machines on public networks? Other than make your own coffee at home. Throw away the internet. HTTPS, VPN. Yeah, so the validate what? I'm curious. So basically the easy solution is VPN, right? So you get on a network, you log onto your VPN immediately, and then you are end-to-end encrypted to whatever network your VPN server is on. So all of your information, all of your connections have to go through this VPN, and ideally you are your own little walled garden then. There is some research currently where there's that little window of time, though, where you connect to a Wi-Fi and then you run your VPN. There's still a little bit of time when you can actually be accessed by everybody else. But the other point I saw in here, so HTTPS, absolutely make sure that you're using encrypted websites if you're doing anything important. But if you're on a public network, credit cards, secured passwords, I would avoid putting them in altogether. HTTPS will help, but if I'm sitting next to you sniffing your traffic, I can take over your session somehow. There are tools for that. All right, another one, disgruntled employees. People get pissed off at work, right? I didn't get the raise I wanted. I got passed over for a promotion. I'm bored, right? People are people, and they're going to do the dumbest thing possible in all situations. That's my very bleak and cynical worldview, and it served me well. But people will sell information on the internet. People will inadvertently leak things. Again, you want to protect yourself not only from bad people, from people looking to exploit your network, but people who just want to get back at the company, right? Last one's fun too. Users are dumb and will click anything. I'm sure you are all aware of this. I've clicked things by accident myself. Hey, here's an email. Click this link to verify your password, right? Download this .exe file and run it because we need to look up your computer credentials. Download Windows 9. That was a fun one that I saw a while back. Users will click anything and they will inadvertently infect themselves and then your network. So you have to make sure that you're protected from all angles. And then the last one, which I kind of skipped over, is this default configuration point. That's one of the things that we saw in our case studies a while back, right? Somebody installed Linux and Apache and they just left the default settings. Well, if it's in the default state, then we know how to get around, certain exploits that may exist or exploit default passwords or, all of these different kinds of things that the default state is in. We need to change that for your personal, your personal environment. This yellow mouse cursor is going to be fun. Let's see, he's got a little yellow finger there. All right, so that's why we protect it. Now, what do we need to do here? This is actually performing pen testing. So first things first, we have to perform reconnaissance. So we're going to gather information about the target that we're going to attack. Put on your white hacker hat, and this is how we're going to do pen testing at a very high level. So we need to perform reconnaissance, right? What does reconnaissance mean? That is getting as much information as we can about our target, whether it's a network, a computer, a person, whatever you have. Second order SQL injections are neat. All SQL injections are neat. They demonstrate problems in validation. All right, so perform reconnaissance. Let's figure out what machines we want to attack, maybe what their IP addresses are, see if we can socially engineer out some usernames and passwords, look at company websites to see what their security plan is that they publish to show how in compliance they are. Use whatever information you can find. Right? So then figure out how you can get in. Let's say that we are outside the network. Well, I can find out what services are running through something like Nmap, right? So I can see that all of these ports are open. Do I know of an exploit for this particular port? Let's try to run it. Right, so run a port scan, try to figure out, subnet ranges, anything that you can do to worm your way in. Next up, try to break into the network. So whether you're inside, you're trying to break into things like Active Directory domain controllers, LDAP servers, database servers, so anything that you want to try to get into, or it can be external, break through the firewall, try to take over HTTPS sessions, anything that you can do to break things. And then the important part, let's assume that we've gotten in, we have found a problem. You are a good ethical hacker, and this can count for your ethical requirement if you're doing honors or something like that. Summarize your findings, summarize your suggestions, and present it to the company that hired you. Okay? So make sure that you can reproduce the hack, that the company knows how to reproduce it, how to fix it, and everything that you can do to make this a valid hacking attempt. Now, the question is going to be, though, who is going to perform this attack? Is it somebody internal? Are you going to go out and hire a consultant? You're going to hire a random person off of Fiverr, give them your credentials and, break in? Well, if you're going to do that, make sure that you are very, very selective with who you pick, right? Not everybody is a good person. Here we have a clear example of a hacker. But the point is that security is a very important topic. All right, so generalities. Now, let's say that you have a large corporation and you're trying to figure out who's going to perform this attack. This is one of those your mileage may vary statements because this is going to depend on your IT staff. It's going to depend on your infrastructure, what you have available, how much money you have to pay people, so on and so forth. So use whatever structure you need. But the idea here is that you have your CIO or your CTO, so basically the head of your technology department. And then you have your IT department here on the left. So your sysadmin, maybe your IT director, various staff, various ops people, everything to make your network hum smoothly. You have a separate branch here, a security team. So security and IT do not interact. All right, this would be an ideal situation. Any idea why I'm suggesting separating out these two? So there should be a nice dividing line here. Any idea why I'm suggesting this? Because this is actually kind of a very good idea. They have competing goals. So what do you mean by that? That's a good statement. Compromise of one side doesn't affect the other. That's true. You want security people to focus solely on security and not get distracted. That's a good point too. There isn't even, those are all wonderful answers, by the way. I will say that. Good job. There's an even simpler answer, though. If you're developing software, are you the person that should be running the tests? No, because whether inadvertently or intentionally, you're going to make your software pass all your tests. Because I have deep experience with these operations. I know what's going to make this thing work perfectly, right? I want to demonstrate that everything is good. Again, this might be intentional or even unintentional. You read your own papers, you look at your own work, it's all perfect to you, and then somebody like me comes along and grades it. Oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, even though you think it's perfect, right? So if you're an IT person here, all of our firewall, all of our security, this is perfect, nobody can get in. Somebody without a vested interest in your operations can say, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to break in, even if it means doing this thing, which maybe or maybe you don't know about, and then all of a sudden I'm in, right? So having a second person kind of looking over your shoulder who is not familiar with your work is always a good idea. Is that why we can't grade our own exams? Um, that's partially the reason why. Otherwise, I mean, if I didn't grade your exams, I mean, what are they paying me for, right? Um, yeah, so you're going to look for the best out of your own work again. 2020 teaching. I love it. All right. I don't know if any of you are on the OU subreddit, but I loved the little meme that went across of the various fees for subscription services. There's Netflix and Prime, and then OU. Although that's not only OU, that applies to every single college. Nice. Well done, Triage. Shouldn't say that. Now I know what your people can find out what your Reddit name is. We don't need to do that. All right, so reconnaissance. This was step one. How can we do it? Social engineering is the easiest one. So this went across the internet. Good. A while back, social engineering was the exciting thing to do, but this is basically where you take advantage of other people's, I'm going to be nice, or I'm just going to divulge information that I normally wouldn't if you ask questions in a particular way. This video is quite fun to watch. I've actually got a handful of them here. So if the audio is a bit too grating, let me know. But here's an example of social engineering. All right, so this is a good one.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And
YouTube is very, very laggy while streaming.
now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and
Okay.
see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yes.
All right. So video one, social engineering. I love that video because it plays on people trying to, who's not going to help out somebody struggling with this kid at home, right? And honestly, the people on the call centers generally aren't paid to handle that, right? They're just there to help out in whatever way they can, move on to the next person. You hear a baby crying in the background, it's fake. That's true. I need to make my kids start screaming so that I can end class early and you can all leave early. All right, so here we have another one. This one's a pretty good one too. I think there's one more after this.
What do you think of when I say the word hacker? Some creepy dude in a basement? Well, that's a misconception. What if I told you there's a class of hackers who don't just have social skills, they have more social intelligence
All right. Sorry, I should have loaded these all up earlier.
than anyone you'll ever meet. David Kennedy is one of them. He's what's known as a social engineer, or a people hacker. His craft is to dupe you into doing things and sharing information you probably shouldn't.
Can I just get your credit card number?
Some use it for illegal activity. In David's case, companies pay him to find out if employees are leaving the company vulnerable. He and his team show us how it's done. Step 1. Spoof his number so it looks like he's calling from inside the company, and then call tech support.
Hello, you there? Hello?
Hi, this is Ken. How may I help you?
I was wondering if you can take a look at a website I'm trying to get to. It's for a big customer thing I'm working on for Monday, and I can't seem to get to the website from my computer.
Sure. What's the website? I'll see if I can get to it.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate the help. I mean, it could be a stupid thing. I'm really stuck with computers, but so it's www.survey. That's SURVEY -pro.com.
Yeah, I got a prompt to open. I just clicked open, and I'm at the site now.
Here's what the IT guy doesn't realize. By clicking that link, he's just given David full access to his computer.
Whoa, okay, that's weird. I just hit it and it works. It seems like it's working fine now. Awesome. I don't know what you did, man, but I really appreciate the help.
Hey, no problem. That was easy.
That was it?
We're on this computer right now.
You were able to take over this guy's computer within, I would say, like under 2 minutes.
Under 2 minutes, yeah. Under 2 minutes, took over his entire computer, and think of it as not just his computer, but it's pretty much a downfall of the entire company.
In this case, the company was paying David to hack them and see if their employees would fall for it. They did. To show you this demo, we agreed not to use the company's name.
All right, so it goes kind of deep into like an ethical sermon almost from the guy, but it's quite interesting. So both of those so far have relied on spoofing phone numbers. So you can make your phone number look like you're calling from another phone number, right? There are apps and tools for that. So if I'm calling from inside the company, why wouldn't I trust you? All right, last one. All right, I'm gonna pause.
So it's basically hijack.
Okay, this is good. So this is Kevin Mitnick. He's a well-known hacker.
Hacking his phone.
That's why I said 2FA
Many of
is
the
not the best.
most popular branded websites out there, including your bank and your brokerage account, lets you enable two-factor authentication. What that means is you not only do you need your username and password to log into the site, but the site will text you a 6-digit code, and you have to put in the code to complete the login process. And that confirms that you actually have that mobile phone. So it's something you know your password and something you have, which is your cell phone. And there's no way to hack into a SIM card. It has crypto keys. And unless you have a certain key called the KI, you can't really do anything with it. It's easier to trick the phone company into switching the SIM card to the one that the attacker has in his or her possession. You have to use social engineering. And what social engineering is, it's using manipulation, deception, and influence to trick a target into doing something or complying with a request. In the case of DeRay McKisson, who is a black rights activist, what these hackers did is they called Verizon pretending to be DeRay McKisson and basically said that he had a problem with his phone. He has to put in a new SIM card. So they verified his identity, then they activated the new SIM. So now when the text message came in for the two-step authentication, it went to the bad guy's phone. So they got the code and were able to access his account. Another way of bypassing two-factor authentication is phishing. So they'll basically send you a message pretending to be from Google or Microsoft or whoever you're doing the two-factor authentication through, and try to trick you into texting the code back at that time, and then the attacker will go ahead and use that code to log into your account, as long as you text that code within 60 seconds, because it changes every 60 seconds. So that's a kind of an amateurish type of attack, but it works.
Yeah, so there's 3 different examples of how social engineering can be used. And honestly, like you said at the very end, these are very simplistic types of attacks, but you are, so there's Authy, I think, is one of them. But I mean, how many people are going to use an app for this, right? It's so much simpler to text them a PIN. 99% of the people aren't even going to understand how to use it, which is a problem. It's an education problem, right? It's not necessarily a technology problem. But yeah, so very, very, it's almost scary how easily you can take advantage of people with simple questions like this. So if you're getting any of these things, and I'm going to get, assume that you're all, more or less technology oriented people, you understand how to protect yourselves against this, right? Yeah, exactly. Explain to your grandma or a grandparent or somebody, who's not an IT or CS major, right? It's super scary to watch these because this is really happening. Like that last one, it actually happened. Like you guys said, it's happened to Boogie, right? So, you know, how do we protect ourselves against this? It's going to be education. It's going to be apps like you guys are talking about in the chat there. But this is also how we can try to do pen testing, right? So we can socially engineer out these passwords, these two-factor authentication codes, and then hey, we're in your network. The second video where the guy sent a specially crafted website, right? Think of the Spectre and Meltdown bugs. That is literally a bit of JavaScript code. So I click a link, it loads up that JavaScript script, and then hey, you've been infected, right? So we can do social engineering. That's the super scary one. You can also do a simple directory lookup. So it is possible to use PowerShell, to use Bash, to scan Active Directory listings. So the LDAP directory that we've been looking at when we do the LDAP labs, those can be scannable, those can be accessible. And what those are going to return is here's a machine, here's its IP address, here's its users, and if you can get into that, then you have a way of breaking in, right? This is all about pivoting from one point to another. You might not have direct access here, but this machine is vulnerable, and then I can get in over there and over there and over there. Another thing you're going to do is footprinting. So well-known tools like Whois or NSLookup, Nmap, those basically figuring out what IP addresses are up and running and available. Right, for instance, if we go over to whois.net, this is just a web analog for the whois command. But if I type in my website, again, this is a good point. Depending on who you register your domain with, I will reiterate this. Make sure you sign up for privacy settings, because if I don't have it, I would see my home address, my phone number, my personal email address inside of this lookup form. And you can run this on the command line. You don't have to go to a website. A lot of places will offer this free, right? So if you go to like GoDaddy or Namecheap or any of those common ones, this is more of a free service now. But for the longest time, looking up this information, you had to pay extra to be private. So normally businesses would register this kind of thing. So again, just make sure that you're protecting yourselves and your companies if you're going into the security or IT world. I've never used Zmap. I'll have to check that out. What are the extra features for that? I've only ever used Nmap personally, so. Can enable Windows Cracker. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Nmap's pretty slow, so I'll have to give that a look. So I saw that somebody else posted a Windows password cracker, so there are definitely tools out there to break open passwords and hashes, and that's one of them. John the Ripper's another one we'll look at briefly today. There's a lot. A couple of other things though too with this footprinting. Companies will put out press releases and publish their security policies to again demonstrate that you can feel safe with them, or that they are following appropriate procedures, or we've done this big upgrade and overhaul of our security policy, here's why you trust us. Well, you as the pen tester, here are all the things that I might know how to get around because they're publishing it, right? They're proud of it. Social media posts is another great one. People get ticked off. I have a crappy day at work. I run out of coffee. I'm angry. Somebody pissed me off. I'm going to publish something on social media about, something internal. Well, now I have a way to get in because whatever your post was, you were dumb enough to put something identifying in there, right? So basically, social engineering, social media, news presses, these are all ways that we can actually use publicly available information to get in. And again, you guys are the good guys. The bad guys can see this too. And they're going to have a lot more powerful tools at their disposal. Okay, so that's how we figure out what we want to hit. Now, which machines do we want to take over, right? So domain controllers is an obvious one, or at least I hope it's obvious. These have all of your network and domain information baked into them, right? If you can take over a domain controller or an LDAP server, I have access to everything. User accounts, devices, domains, even passwords. Everything is baked in here. Let's say that I take over a domain controller. I have access to it. I can then lock everybody else out. I can do a dump of all the password hashes to whatever machine I've got locally, and then run any of these password cracking tools. Now, they don't, they're not necessarily the fastest, but if I have an offline copy, I can just let some high-powered computing crank on that until it finds a hash key that it knows. All right, so basically any kind of machine that we can access, we want to try and hit. So domain controllers, LDAP, that makes sense. That's got everything else. But application servers, what's stopping us from breaking into those? Running like a file server or a print server or some kind of a web server even. If there's an exploit that we can get in, we can use that to access more. Same with workstations. Again, they're going to be promiscuous. They're probably not going to be locked down as much. Workstations very easily hop from network to network to network. So these are all very good types of machines to hit. And consider now this list can also be phones, tablets, microcomputers if you're using a Pi or any kind of IoT device. So basically anything that's going to let you in, you want to look at. Okay, so pen testing, how is it actually done? You either are going to do this with or without participant knowledge. So let's say that somebody hires you to break into their system to, demonstrate anything that you find. You can, ideally, you're going to run this either with or without the knowledge of the person that you're going to hit. So if it's with their knowledge, they might try to protect themselves. If it's without their knowledge, it's just like an everyday occurrence for them, and then all of a sudden, you're able to break in. Hopefully that makes sense. But basically, it's not necessarily required that the person that you're attacking knows it's happening. However, I will say if that's the case, make sure it's documented that that is what is going to happen. Make sure that if I break into somebody's system, that there is some kind of a paper trail saying you are allowed to do this, right? Because otherwise you're effectively trespassing on people's property, virtual property. So for instance, you might call up a random employee, kind of like that last video there, or the second to last one, where I'm going to call up the help desk employee. I'm trying to figure out how to get in. I need a username and password. Well, maybe I know this employee's first name and last name, so I'm going to pretend to be employee X. Well, I know their name. Here's some information that I've gleaned off of social media. I need to reset my password. Okay, sure. I'm in. Or I run a bunch of scripts. I try to break in through a firewall. I run a password cracker to get, I know the username. I have the password hash. Maybe I can figure that out. Basically, or there are so many things that you can do to do pen testing. It's actually a very interesting / scary thing to do. And this really demonstrates how insecure all these systems actually are. But, so this is the important but. Make sure there is a signed approval to cover yourself. Any critical staff need to be on contact 24/7 because if I try to break in at 3 a.m. and I trigger some kind of automated system which automatically calls the police saying, hey, somebody's breaking in, that's bad. Important but. Basically, ensure that everybody's on the same page. I can't stress this enough. You don't want to be caught breaking into a system and people think that you are doing this for the wrong reasons, right? You're doing this for the right reasons. You're doing this to strengthen their network, strengthen their computers. and you don't want to be painted as the bad guy. So an agreement has to be signed. Everybody in charge has to be aware that this process is happening. And always remember to cover yourself. A little bit more here too. So make sure that we scope this. So what is on limit, what is off limit, right? So excuse me. So what is successful, for instance? What am I allowed to hit? What is off limits? So in terms of success, is it important to just find an exploit that might be applied? Or you tried to log in too much, the account will be closed. Perfect. Yeah. That's what happens when you run an automated script and you have protection against login attempts. But what is success here? Actually demonstrating the attack or simply breaking in, right? How are you going to demonstrate that your attack worked? Are you going to be able to provide like a Word doc with screenshots? Do you have to do a video? Do I have to come into the company and show it happening, right? What is the success? What is fail state? Now let's say that I break in. So the second point here, if I've compromised your system, what happens to it? Do you tag it, take it off the network, turn it off, yank the hard drive out and fix things, remove it from service, just update it live, right? What are we going to do? And this is going to be one of those things where you have to come to an agreement with the company. And you also need a timeline. So when is the attack going to start? When I'm going to run my social engineering? When am I going to run my hacks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? So starting to sound like a normal project, all right? So consider this to be like any other IT or software related project where you have to scope it out, do your Gantt charts, all that fun stuff. So as exciting as this sounds, at the end, it's still a project. But the interesting thing here, though, is that what is out of scope for us? So we're trying to break in. Are we going to limit ourselves unnecessarily because we are the good guys, right? We're not trying to steal information. Keep in mind that if you are doing this, nothing is out of scope for the people trying to break in. They will read your emails. They will go through your personal files. They will go through your chat messages, right? They will look at every single thing that you can do to a computer. And why would you limit yourself to not looking at somebody's personal email, right? Not doing keystroke logging. These are all horribly invasive things. If somebody was doing pen testing and I learned that they were going through my documents folder, I'd probably get a weird, like, violated feeling, right? Because people are going through your personal stuff. But the hackers aren't going to care, so why should the pen tester? Maybe I have a list of all my passwords in a Word document, right? People will do that. Or it's a post-it note on my computer screen. How hard is it to reverse engineer or figure that out? Really not. The point is, though, that if you're going to be doing this, make sure that you have, again, a signed agreement. Make sure that there are precautions in place if you're discovered for this. Basically, make sure that, again, the CYA is going to apply here. All right, we good so far? This is kind of my, I love doing this. It's more of like a scared straight type of lecture because the stuff is all real world. We all know what happens, and well, here's how you do it all. All right, so if you are inside versus outside the network, here's some things that you can do. If you're inside, obviously we know the subnets, we know all the IP ranges, we probably know ports that are open. We might know the infrastructure of the Active Directory domains, maybe what the forest looks like, all that fun stuff. Also, you can participate in the trust relationships. So if I can get an Active Directory account, well, I can log into whatever domain is part of that trust. So it all comes full circle here. I might be able to be in a group. I might be able to be in an access control list. I might have access to resources, which I wouldn't necessarily have if I was outside, right? If I wanted all these resources and I was outside, I would have to first break in, take control of something, and then gain access. So if we're outside, you're outside the circle of trust. I'm not in the AD domain. I'm not participating in the LDAP tree, right? So if you're external, you just have some extra work to do. If you're already inside, maybe even you are a vendor going into a company, you drop your little Raspberry Pi in the corner, and now we have an access point. Yes, it's a great movie. All right, so doing some pen testing. So this is a visual of our steps here. So first we're going to do a reconnaissance. All right, so we're going to socially engineer, do whatever we can to get in, get an idea of our targets. Let's find the vulnerabilities. Again, we have known lists of exploits. We know how we can worm our ways in. Basically, if you're trying to find a vulnerability, it is as easy as, I know this exploit exists, which tool can perform this exploit? Right? If we go back to the AOL days, I can kick people offline by running this little script that's going to ping them every 5 seconds or however it worked. You click a button, user goes offline. Simple exploit and vulnerability that used to exist back in the old AIM days. I'm sure there are Discord similar things going on too. All right, so we find the vulnerabilities, we exploit them. We try to escalate our privileges. And what this means is I try to go from a normal user to an admin, or I go from a normal user to somebody with an elevated permission. Well, I can take that and I can gather some more information. I can try to pivot. And what this idea of a pivot point is, I have gotten into a system. I'm now going to pivot to another attack and try to get more access. So the whole point of this is to escalate your privileges to keep gaining access to more and more and more networks. Right, so you break in. I've compromised a workstation. I can now pivot to try and compromise a domain controller. Right, I can pivot to access a file share. I can access all of your company documents because it's on this network. But I'm not on this network. I need a route to get there. So I have to compromise workstation to workstation to workstation to eventually get over here, right? So it's basically how many steps can you take inside a network before you get caught effectively. And once you're done, I've demonstrated that your network is vulnerable, your users are vulnerable, all of everything we've seen so far. What do you do next? Well, you clean up your tracks, remove your access attempts from the logs, scan through, and try to make it look like you were never there, all right? If it's a Linux server, these logs are just text files. See if you can get in and remove your steps, remove any traces that you were there. And then, most importantly here at the bottom, Google's covering it up right now. It's a conspiracy. Do your reporting. This is exactly what I did. These are the steps I took. This is how I got a username and password out of this person. Yeah, mess with machine clocks. Simple one. Times reporting incorrectly. But report what you did and then be able to demonstrate what you did. All right, this is what makes you the good guy down here. All right, so pivoting, I already talked about this, but what you can do here, let's say that we compromised a user, we've gotten access. Yes, good guy hacking. Again, I will glare at you in my angry professor/dad glare if you use this for anything bad. So we compromised a user. We've gotten into their machine through some exploit. That's our pivot point. It's a pivot because maybe their machine is dual homed. So 2 networks I can access. So just keep pivoting, keep gaining more and more and more information. Okay, we good so far? I think we've got another video later on too, but some considerations here. Spy versus spy. So what is our scope? Where are we going to be? Let me pop all these through here. So how much are we going to attack? Again, what are the limits of what you have access to? This has to be agreed upon. Am I attacking from the inside or the outside? If inside, I might need some credentials to get going. Maybe you make me a normal employee or somebody with guest access or something like that, and we'll see where we go from there. Or external, this is our network, or here's our website, go nuts, that kind of thing. And then in-house or outsourced, do you have your own security team? Are we hiring consultants who are well known for this and are vetted and we trust them to not do anything bad with this stuff, right? Because personal information to people that you don't necessarily know. And then, again, white hat versus black hat. You all should be the white hat side of things. All right, so this is where things start to get interesting, at least I think so. So we're going to start getting into some demos here. Easiest exploit you can run is a website mirror. So basically, I can go to any website and I can dump the contents of all of the files and directories. So if you go to a website and you can do a directory listing, then you can crawl through every single link, every single folder, and pull down the whole thing, right? I can gain all kinds of information about your backend scripts. I can gain information about what kind of SQL sanitizing you're doing. Basically, everything that you wouldn't want to be shown is visible, right? So front-facing websites, we can see the HTML, you can see the JavaScript. We all know that. Not a problem. The problem is when your .php files or your Python files, whatever scripts are running server-side only, become accessible, then, oh, you're using a username and password that's hard-coded. Well, I can get in, right? So for instance, this is, I made a virtual, oops, I didn't want to do that. I made a virtual machine for pen testing. So this is a web server, it's running WordPress, and I'm gonna also use it as kind of my attacker website. So I can, let's say, wget recursive 35.202.128.161/tester. So I made a dummy directory in this wget command. You know, it's very common. Everybody has it. If you're running Linux, or PowerShell probably works too. Oh, the IP address changed. That's right. This is not going to work. Sorry. It's now this address. So it's wget again. And this is now, there we go. Knew that was going too fast or too slow. So ls, here I have now a directory of this IP address. Here's a bunch of files. ls, oops, okay, tester. So file 1, file 2, file 3, bunch of states of the index page. Locked password, don't look. Well, let's look. Okay, it's silly. But point is, not everybody encrypts passwords. Sometimes if you have that, you know, that very simple login screen where it's just username and password, it's that little pop-up. That's the simplest form of authentication we talked about. That's stored in a text file in your website. If it's not locked down, I can pull down everything from your website and see what's in there, right? So if you're going to run a web server, you have to make sure you can lock down commands like this. Yes, sir. What can I help you with? Or ma'am, I'm not sure who this is. But yeah, what's the question? Are there websites with practice servers to attack? I know that there are out there, so I don't know of any offhand, but one of the tools is called Metasploit. We're not going to look at it, but there are like basically dummy servers that you can attack or dummy configurations. Okay, hackthebox.eu. So I know they are out there. I don't know of them personally. So, but yeah, definitely. The thing that you can do too, can you post these codes you use up on Moodle? So yes, let me do that because I'm gonna forget. I'm just gonna throw these into a text file here. But the thing too here is that I pulled down this tester file that I explicitly didn't care about. If I try to pull down my WordPress site, a CTF event, is this to capture the flag event? in person, or is this through like a game remote? Okay. What gets you hyping your squad? Oh, it's a hacking. Okay. It's relevant. Okay. Good job. I see CTF, I think of like Unreal Tournament, Team Fortress and stuff like that. Cool. Yeah, check that out. Sounds like fun. So I tried to pull down my WordPress site, and fortunately, WordPress is fairly locked down. So if you don't have directory listing enabled, and what that means is that I can just go to tester. You see something like this. This means it's not locked down. You can pull this down programmatically. But simplest thing you can do, pull down website files. And again, if there is a server-side script that you shouldn't be able to see, that might be one way you can get in there. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the tools that are out there. And again, I think Shreyash mentioned Kali before. So this is a variant of Linux, or it's one of the distribution. It comes with all these pen testing tools baked into it. So you don't have to install them, but you can install these on pretty much any system too. So all these tools that we're going to talk about here, a lot of them are actually in the repositories. The like the aptitude repository, for instance. Things that are baked into Kali. So that's pretty much with any distribution. There's Maltego, which I'll show you a screenshot of, but basically this is going to pop up a bunch of bubbles of users, devices, all kinds of things, basically to describe entities in your environment. But then you can dig deeper. What is this person's personal website? What is their phone number? It basically will go out and search for identifying information on the network or on the internet. So very, very interesting. Hydra is one that we're going to look at. This is basically a login cracker, so we're going to break into WordPress with it. Vega is one that we're also not going to use, but I'm going to show a picture. But basically, this is going to scan your websites for known vulnerabilities. So it's a automated tool which is just going to test your website. All right, so this is Maltego. It's an older screenshot. I've got a video here of it working. But basically, here are all the domains in my network. Here is everything connected to this domain. So here is ivan@something.org, basically. Here is basically all of these connections to this domain. And you can drill into each one of these bubbles and get near perfect personal identifying information just by linking yourself to some domain. So I'm a user in a domain, for instance. I can take that information, search for more, and just basically keep pivoting. Yeah, question. Can't remember if this is a good video or not. Oh yeah, so this is a demo of Maltego, and it's one of these lovely typed into Word. What network protocol is used to find these domains? So it's going to depend. It might be talking on Active Directory. You could be using straight up TCP/IP packets. Where's registered Hypercam 2? Good question. But basically, this is just kind of a walkthrough of Maltego. So here is a person. Here are all the email addresses affiliated with this person, even some that are not registered on the network. It's basically just a graph that's built up of anything that can be found related to a person. So the network protocol is just going to be whatever network is talking to these domains. It's common Ethernet protocols, basically. So yeah, that video is kind of interesting, but a very useful tool to find out more information about objects. All right, so this is Hydra. So this is a cracking tool for breaking into websites or into web applications. We're going to do a demo of this soon, but basically you provided a list of usernames, provided a list of passwords, and it will try to break in. So here, this is actually trying to brute force a FTP server. And then there's Vega as well. This is an interesting one. And I should mention too that these tools have gone through iterations since I put these screenshots in here. Some of them have gone paid. Some of them have obviously changed the way they look, but all of these tools still exist. So here, this is attacking this particular website. Here's some of the high vulnerabilities it's got. So clear text password. I'm not using HTTPS. My passwords are not encrypted. There is 7 possibilities for this. SQL injection attacks. Directory traversal. This is what I showed you a few moments ago. Local file system paths found. If I can figure out what your file system structure is, I can try to break out and go into other areas, right? So just applying these well-known tools to a website, here's all the vulnerabilities they've got. All right, and then Hydra and WordPress. So this is going to be the first demo that we do. You can break into WordPress fairly easily. I say this every year. Is this a reference I'm not aware of? Probably. Again, don't do this unless you want me to disavow and disown you. There is a link that I've got here for how to break into it. Things have changed slightly behind the scenes, but the general idea is the same. So let's break into it. First thing we have to do is reconnaissance. Right, so if we go to WordPress, and again, I just installed the default WordPress. I haven't enabled any of the optimizations. I am in the default configuration. For some reason, it's been going fairly slow today. Maybe because I was trying to break into it yesterday. But what you do, and actually this is exact to your point, is to inspect it. So let's go to the website, try to log in, and we need to get some information. Right, so we go here, and I'm actually going to go to WP login.php because I know as a WordPress site, the login page is this one. It's going really slow, and this is kind of surprising. Let's see what's running on here. Oh, you know what? I bet. I thought I still had a password cracker running. Oh no, WordPress is sick too. Do I still have it up? No, I love the, so there's, when you have a, like a Word document in protected mode, careful, clicking this may enable viruses. So we can get the corona through Word now. All right, here we go. Why is this going so slowly? Maybe I have to let's do this really quickly. Clear. Sudo system control restart Apache 2 MySQL server. MySQL. All right, maybe this will go a little bit speedier now. Nope, just a slow news day. Good enough. All right, I'm sure you're all aware of the developer tools. If you're not, it's so weird that it's going so slow. You know, I'm betting that WordPress did not wash its hands. Okay, here we go. So we have our website here. I can just inspect the elements using the dev tools, and well, we've got some information here. Right, so username or email address, the name of it is log. The password, name of the form is, where's it at? Oh, I clicked the wrong one. It's a little highlights throwing me off. The name of it is PWD, right? There's a little forget me not here. So remember me if I want to check this, but what you may or may not have noticed is, where'd it go? There is a couple of hidden fields. So we have a test cookie, we have a redirect field. So basically this is a little honeypot thing which is going to make sure that we're not a script logging in. Right, so stupidest way you can validate yourself is to make a hidden field. Why is it stupid? Well, anybody can see it through the dev tools. All right, so we have information that we need here. right? So we need these fields. And what we're trying to do here is we're just trying to break in, okay? So we need some more information about the site too. So we might need cookie information. We might need session information. How are we going to break in? Oh, one way you can do that, let's use curl. If you all remember curl from last semester, is probably the last time I used it with you guys. This is just a way of transmitting data or receiving data from a website. So let's query this out, curl, and then -v, localhost /wp. I'm just going to use localhost as a shorthand. You put whatever IP address you want in here. And then I want wp login.php. Right? So I'm going to basically get the HTTP headers back. I'm going to get the code that's going to come back. So I'm basically getting what the browser sees when I navigate there. What we care about as hackers is what are the headers here. All right, so there is, for instance, here that I'm highlighting, there's a cookie being set. We talked about cookies before, right? This is a little text file set on your computer. Well, if I'm trying to log in, the browser is going to set this test cookie. And the validator on the other side is going to say, has this cookie been set? If so, we're going to assume it's a user browsing to us, right? So there's a cookie here. Life should be good. No, that's not the case. So we can now, and I'm going to try to log in with a username and password that I know, but I can pass all of this form information through curl. All right. So what this is going to do here, let me go back to my terminal. Curl -v, so I'm going to pass it some data, log equals Eric. So this is a username and password that I know. All right. I could be doing this just to try to figure out what the response is. pwd equals t temp 3. So username and password, I'm just sending on the terminal. And wp-submit, so this is my, I think, hidden cookie, log plus in, and test cookie equals 1. So this is the form information. I also have to set this cookie. Well, we can do that with curl. Cookie, so WordPress test cookie equals wp plus cookie plus check. And we're going to apply this to our local page. All right, so unless I screwed something up here, I should get a response that I logged in. And again, there is nothing wrong with the curl command. It is a standard command. All right, everybody has access to it. You might have to install it in Ubuntu because I don't think it's default, but there's nothing nefarious about curl. You're all probably going to end up using it if you are going to do a RESTful service. Yeah, question. Would encoding these requests in binary? I mean, binary, if it's encoded, it would be a little bit more helpful, but it's still something you can decompile, basically. Oh, really? Well, I thought you could send different formats through curl. It's possible. I mean, let me maybe set the expectation. I am not a cybersecurity researcher. I'm sure there are ways that you can make this better, but you know, there are definitely. This is a WordPress website from the current version of WordPress, so you know, these kinds of things have been existing for a while. There might be a valid reason why you want to log into WordPress through the terminal or through a website, any website through the terminal. So it's not necessary that we want to block everybody from doing it. We just want to make it harder. So what we're seeing here, I fired off this command. I mean, I know you can at least send JSON files through curl, but we see my current location is the admin page. So I have successfully logged in with this account, right? This is the answer that I'm looking to see. So I can log in correctly, and this is not breaking in. I'm just demonstrating that this works. Okay, so if we want to try to brute force our way in, we could try, the simplest thing to do is to brute force it with the dictionary attack. Now, this is where we're going to generate a list of usernames and a list of passwords, and we're just going to try combining them. All right, so this is where the tool Hydra comes into play. Hail Hydra, right? I can meme. All right, so I'm going to copy and paste this here because I'm probably going to mess up the typing a little bit. But clear this out. No, don't run, don't run. Clear, clear, clear. I don't want this to run yet. What I have to break this down, so we're going to call Hydra. We're going to pass it a user's file and a password file. So ideally, you would either have socially engineered out what some of these usernames are. Maybe you figure out, okay, who are the employees? Let's try to combine their names in various ways, right? Like all of you got your Oakland email addresses. It's your, whatever combination of your name they want to set it to be. I don't know what that is, and I don't know that I want to click it. That frightens me. But then I would just generate a list of passwords, right? So if we take a look at cat users, so here's all my users that I'm trying out. Maybe I've gleaned that I am an editor on this website, or I'm a writer or contributor. Let's try out random usernames. Oh, okay, gotcha, thank you. And I can try passwords. So maybe I know something about this person. Maybe I know that they like narwhals. Maybe I know that they like bacon. I mean, who knows? We can put whatever we want into these lists, and we're just going to try to combine them. Anybody get the Hunter 2 reference? Or am I too old now? This was an early days of the internet joke. Yay, somebody got it. Thank you. Thank you for validating me. Alrighty, so we're going to run this. We're going to run it on a localhost. We're going to get some verbosity. We're going to run it with, oops, keep forgetting that you can use your mouse with this tool or this window here. We're going to run it with two processors two threads. We're going to send this as form data, and then we are going to redirect to basically this website. And we have a version of what the string for logging in looks like. So caret user, caret is basically just yanking a username out of that file. Caret pass, the same thing. We're going to pass in our cookies, and then we're going to try to run this. All right, so enter. Hydra is going to run. And depending on how quickly my server is responding, I should mention too that I bumped up the RAM and the storage space of the server just for these demos because a lot of these tools are very, very heavy-handed. So if you're trying to do any of this on your micro instance, it might be really slow. All right, we got one. So again, I should mention this is a fresh install of the current version of WordPress. All right. I am not using a particular version to try and demonstrate what worked 10 years ago. No, this is a current production-ready WordPress installation. So the ones in green are basically successful attempts. All right. So I see that I got in with this username and password combo. And, oh, I also got into the admin account. Change me immediately, looks familiar. What we see here is actually, so there is a success string that you can look for. So I'm looking for a not login error, basically. This is where the link that I put up differs from what I have in the slides. The response has changed slightly for WordPress, I assume to combat this kind of attack. But basically, if I was just looking for success, every single one of those would return fine because success constitutes a HTTP post 80 came back, not necessarily that we got a different response. So again, if you're following the blog that I linked, you're gonna have to change it to match my code in the slides. So yeah, here's two usernames and passwords. Oh, webmin changed me immediately. Sure, let's give that a shot. So 35.224. 192.55. Oh, that's right there. Okay. I'm going to go to this website. No idea why it's so slow. So other things you might notice too is that it didn't block me from logging in a million times. So this goes to that default configuration problem. You can configure WordPress to only allow 3 logins and then shut down or something like that, right? Or add plugins to help with this. This would be like a default configuration problem. All right, so this is going to take forever. Basically, if this doesn't end up loading, really don't know why it's going so slow. Probably just because I'm trying to do a demo. I mean, who really cares if it looks pretty? We just want to log in. All right, take your time. We're not doing anything here. So yeah, very, very easy way to break into a system. Or not easy, but non-trivial, basically. So change. So this is our silly test password. Let's log in. And away we go. Yeah, okay. I can guarantee that login works. It's just being silly today. All right, so that's Hydra. Again, comes with Kali. You can install it through the aptitude repo. So apt install Hydra. Very, very easy to install. All right, the next one we're going to look at is John the Ripper. So this is a password cracker. So if you want to break into a user's account, if you can somehow get a hold of their password hashes, you know, for instance, like you dump the etc shadow. Yeah, there you go. Great security if you can't access it, right? But anyway, what you can do is you could dump a password hash, you know, for instance, get a hold of the etc shadow file and just let a tool like this work on it. So I created a password.txt file with a user and a hashed password. Again, a very simple hash. And then I would just try to break it. So this particular tool, it has taken me anywhere from 4 to 10 minutes to run when the machine was running well, so I'm not even going to bother attempting it right now. But just keep in mind you can compile it with OpenMPI, which is multiprocessing, with GPU and CUDA support. So this thing is a very, very heavy tool. It will take a long time to run if you give it a big file. So on my silly little instance here, I'm not going to really try to run it, but you can say John show, and I already cracked this last night, and now I apparently lost it. Well, let's try it anyway. So, oh, you know what? That's why. It is John password. That's right. All right. I say it shouldn't have gotten rid of the password already. John PW. So it cracked my user, and the password is example. OpenCL is one of the other ones that John uses too. So I haven't used Hashcat. I assume it's a fairly similar tool. But yeah, if we look at this John PW, this is what the file looks like. Ran John, and yeah, cracked the password. So you could dump whatever hash you want. Any of these tools will try to break a password, and then, hey, I've got a username and password combo that I can use to get in, right? And again, it's in the apt library. It's on Kali. It's on all of these various distributions. OpenVAS, I do not have a demo for. This is a tool which is a commercial scanner. And what it is used for is basically, again, to look for vulnerabilities. It's going to look something like this. Let me kind of zip through here. Got this pretty little wizard to make life easier for people who are not necessarily good with the command line. But it's going to look for vulnerabilities on your system. So I don't remember what this one, the example is, but basically your system is open to an SMB server attack. So this is not necessarily web-based, it is infrastructure-based, but it's a vulnerability scanner. So kind of a neat little tool. So that is, was that my last demo? I think it was my last demo. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of other tools out there too. There's the Metasploit Toolkit, Hashcat, basically anything that you could conceive of, there is probably an open source tool to break into it. Right? So that's kind of the fun little demos. Also a good highlight that WordPress is super vulnerable, even though it's installed on, what, 30 or 50% of the internet. So if we're going to put our white hats back on to become ethical hackers, let's talk about the reports. So if I'm going to do this attack and perform it, the report should be clear and concise, right? So make sure that whoever you're giving all of this information to is able to understand it, that they can reproduce it, that they can fix it. But then, nice little part of being a good human being, mention the positives with their infrastructure. So tell them what they're doing right as well. Because if I come to you and I just say, you screwed this up, you screwed this up, you screwed this up, everybody's going to be fairly upset. But you guys did this well, you did this well, but over here, you have a problem with your firewall or something like that. So just a little nicety to, make people happy in a way. All right, security tips for you all. This should sound familiar. I will shake my head at disapproval if you don't do this. But again, always comes back to this principle of least privilege. Make sure that your devices, your users, don't have more privileges than they need. Second one, harden your applications. Don't accept unclean data. The shit sandwich. What would that be? This principle or something else? Or my lecture, I guess. Could be that too. Don't accept unclean data. Manage your users. Separate out your domains. And then, last but not least, baseline your system. So if something starts spiking in usage, which I should probably look at this web instance, maybe there's a performance problem. Oh, okay, I like that. Surround news with good news at the end. Okay. That's a good way to put it. That's a very business-oriented way to put it. I like that. But yeah, if you don't baseline your systems, how are you going to know if it's misbehaving, right? If my micro instance is running at 0% usage and all of a sudden it spikes to 100, it's either scanning itself or somebody's using it as a botnet participant, right? So baselines are useful. Run your audits regularly. Make sure that even though this is a very painful and difficult process of breaking into your system, you should always keep up to date and make sure something new hasn't been introduced to your network or somebody hasn't misconfigured something in the meantime. I've got a little link for you there too. All right, other stuff. So I don't have this one up and running. There is a tool up on actually GitHub now, I believe, called CrackMap. Basically, you can dump password hashes of everybody in your Active Directory domain with a very, very simple tool. You can see who is currently logged in. Again, you can see their password hashes, which you could then take, throw in any of these password crackers and try to break into it. So pen testing is a very, very interesting topic. All right, so then I've got some, don't worry about this group time in class thing. I'm not going to put up an assignment or anything like that. But this last one is kind of fun because I kind of mentioned this before. This is a nice little Trojan horse that we used to think about with when I was in high school. It still exists. But let me pause you. All right, so what this is a little tool which allows you to remotely control another computer. So up here you have your hacker, down here you have your victim, and all that's really necessary is for this thing to be running as a service. So you figure out the IP address, you run our little NetBus tool. And I don't know if you can see it, it's a little bit grainy even on my screen. You can see things like start program, play a sound, exit Windows, go to URL, take control of the mouse. Basically, it's just a remote control program. I know, right? This bass drop is gonna be off. Generalities, for instance, you could scan the entire wide area network of your ISP, and you would always get like 20 to 50 IP addresses that are vulnerable to this attack. Anybody connected to your Comcast network, for instance. And if anybody came in late, that was really taking your surprising guard of my that is completely unreadable, but hey, I popped up a message on your machine. We're having a rave. Force the browser to open. I'm pretty sure that tool is still accessible, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend running it because it installs a Trojan on your machine. So, anybody have any leftover questions on pen testing at all? So I'm going to go ahead and stop this guy before it drains my account. It wouldn't be a good class if we didn't watch at least a few YouTube videos. All right. Nope, all good. All right, so did we have an assignment due in the near future? I think we may have. Let's pop open a new browser so nobody gets to see my Reddit activity. What's a question? Today, ooh. Anybody have any questions on the homework that's due tonight? Ah, okay, yeah. I thought this lab was due. Tuesday, March 17th. So that was, okay. That was already due. Good. This whole working from home thing, my mind is more scattered than it normally is, so that's the only reason I was looking. Yeah, so don't worry about the last slide of the pen testing thing. I forgot to delete that before I put it up on Moodle, so. As always, the expectation for deliverables will be Moodle. Like if you have a Moodle assignment pop up, that's what I'm more so expecting. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much all I've got for you today. As always, if you have any suggestions for, yes, we have tails popping up in the screen. What can I help you with? Mention over how our test's going to work. So tests are going to be, yeah, well, yeah, the final's the only test left. It's going to be online. It will be through Moodle. I will figure out the best way to do that, but the format's going to be a little bit different than the midterm. It's going to be more amenable to taking it online, basically. So I'm not going to require that you all have your webcams on or anything like that. Basically, I'll just give you a link. It's probably going to be alive for a certain amount of time. Will there still be a meme? Of course. Of course there'll be a meme. I mean, come on. So, with that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Pog. Yeah. See you all through Tuesday. And thank you all for watching. Yeah, I mean the memes, they've been evolving. Posted in Discord. Yes, so you don't have to rely on me to forget to scan in all of your extra credit answers. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Redeem hand wash. Awesome. Does he know he's still streaming and talking to himself? Oh no, it's not working. Yeah. Trying here. Should probably be separating this out so it's a different stream, but whatever. Is it admin? Know that I'm going to be able to get this to work. Silly dual. Darn, that's not working. Yeah, it was going to be the Binding of Isaac, but for some reason it doesn't want to capture. That's a shame. If anybody has any suggestions to make the Twitch stream a little bit better for you all too, I'm always open to figuring that out. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna have to be Spoggy. Yeah, something with this NVIDIA setup, it's just not happy with various applications. Like I've tried running it as administrator, tried running with both graphics cards, and it's just not happy. So, yeah, it is what it is. And if any of you need a voice stream, or if you want me to restrict your chat rooms to your particular user accounts, let me know. I can do that too. Yeah. Out of curiosity, those of you that are still left, do you have a particular technology you're going to want to use for your presentations at all? We'll have to check that out. All right. So does the display capture, how is that for performance with something like this? Okay, yeah, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Ooh, good. Yeah. Rip. It's my current goal this semester to get a hell run completed. So that's basically what I've been going for here. Nope, not what I wanted. There's the key. Oh, awesome. Easy peasy. Bats and skeletons, the two most annoying things here. Alright. That's good. I mean, if a display capture is fine, then I can just do that if I ever do this again. I need those bombs. Oh, that was dumb. Yep. No. Every time. Every time. That's what happens when you lecture for 2 hours straight. Just makes me crankier. Spring shoes. Nice. The problem with this one is that if you're not careful and you stop paying attention, it's like the death knell for any character. Thank you, doggy. For your screen caps, do you guys all have access to tools for that, either through the school or elsewhere? Stupid. Not paying attention. All right. Wow, twice in a row. Thank you for your items. That was not smart. You. That would not have been smart either. You got sticky bombs. They stick. Alright. Need that. What's that? Get hit by a piece of gold. Ropes are always good. Got him. Down there, huh? This is the content that you all subscribed for. Ooh, this would be nice. Come here. Come on. These will be tricky. I am amazed that worked. Please, thank you. Goodbye.